two things in one night, both involving the same friend, both involving my need to go to the bathroom. At around 10 p.m. I needed to take a dump, so I left our site to use the restrooms, which were about a fourth of a mile away. It's pitch black. As I was walking, I saw one of my friends who was with us walk from a path leading to an unused site onto the main path. This unused site path was a good 50 yards away from our site's path. My friend has a very noticeable and particular gait, a way of walking, in other words. At multiple points, he turned around and asked, "Why are you following me?" Always a good 40 or so feet ahead of me, I would reply, "I literally told you guys I was going to the bathroom. Why did you come from a different site?" He picked up his pace, and eventually I lost him in the darkness. I get to the bathrooms without seeing him. I take my dump, and upon returning to my site, where he, of course, is, I start asking why I'm being messed with. Everyone denies my friend even left. Okay, so they're messing with me. No big deal. 3 a.m. rolls around. I wake up needing to pee. No need to walk to the restrooms this time. I'll just walk off into the woods a bit. As I walk back after my piss, I hear the distinct sounds of a tent zipper opening. In the darkness, I can tell it's my friend. And I can barely see, but definitely hear him zip it back up. As I get closer to the tents, I see him more clearly, and he walks a bit. He goes to light a cigarette. I can see his face with the flint strikes of the lighter, even clearer when it manages to catch. He lights his cigarette, takes a puff, and says, "Can you hear me?" I say, "Yeah, I can hear you, what's up?" Again, much louder this time. "Can you hear me?" I say, "Yeah, are you trying to wake everyone up?" He kind of shakes his head at me, then turns and walks towards the cars, maybe 30 feet away from him. Thinking I'm being messed with again, I go to follow, lose him behind the car. I turn the corner of it, and he is nowhere to be seen. I'm pissed. He thinks he's so funny. So I went back to his tent. It's still closed, and I can hear him faintly snoring inside. I don't know what it was I saw exactly, but it looked, sounded, and walked just like my friend. I was slightly inebriated, but not enough to hallucinate. He denies he ever left his tent or went through the woods ahead of me. This wasn't camping exactly, but I managed a resort in the Adirondack for several years. The place is old and rustic. It's miles from civilization, very peaceful. It was built in the 1920s and had somewhat of a sordid past. It was built for a Canadian senator who would run rum down from Canada during Prohibition. We still had the underground locked safe room where he would store the booze, as well as hidden booze hiding areas underneath some of the cabins. Calvin Coolidge stayed at a camp across the pond during his presidency, and would visit my camp, for the spirits I'm sure. Anyway, I met a girl and decided to sleep out under the stars on the camp's peninsula. Well, it started to rain. So I suggested we sleep on the screened-in porch of the boathouse, which I thought was a pretty good compromise. So after we were all set up, it was getting pretty late, about 1:30 a.m. or so. We were laying there, and I was tossing and turning because I had been asleep and woken up, so I have a hard time falling asleep after stuff like that. We had lain there for about half an hour or so, when we heard the bathroom door open in the boathouse. It couldn't have been anything else but that door. I did all the maintenance on those old buildings, and oiling that particular door was on my work list for the next day. My first thought was my boss, the owner of the camp. She is notoriously nosy, and has been known to spy on the staff and their staff quarters, so she was my first logical thought as to who made the noise. Why she would have been hiding out in the men's bathroom in the boathouse for over an hour is beyond my comprehension. I proceed to hear footsteps walking across the boathouse, down the 3 stairs to the dance floor, and stopping right in front of the door to the screened-in porch. I lay there just waiting for the door to open, and my boss to call my name. And as the minutes stretched out, I started praying that she would open the door, walk away, sneeze, dance the funky chicken, anything. But nothing. The rest of the night I stayed up, stiff and straight as a poker in my sleeping bag. No receding footsteps, no door noises, no nothing, except for my girlfriend and I in the night and the empty boathouse. The next morning, my girlfriend rolled over to me and immediately asked me about the footsteps the night before. She had also stayed up all night waiting for some other sound to explain those footsteps in the night, and heard nothing. She was terrified, never went into the boathouse again. I, unfortunately, had to go to the boathouse on a daily basis. Everything was cool during the day. At night, I had to turn all the lights in the camp off. This is something I've done every night for the past 3 years. However, there was always a sense of dread going in there after that, being alone in the dark in that boathouse. The worst part is that there is an enormous hanging bed in front of the fireplace. It was for the former camp owners to take naps in the day. It hung on chains so that the bed could be lifted out of the way for entertaining guests in the evening. Every single night the bed was swinging. A 175-pound bed swinging on its chains in the darkness of the boathouse. Until my last day at the camp, if I went in at night, that bed would swing. When I was 17 or so, 2 friends and I decided to camp in a field next to my house estate so we could drink beer and listen to music as loud as we wanted. This was a huge grassy field on a slight hill, where all the surrounding houses were far away enough so that we wouldn't disturb the neighbors, and we couldn't be seen by anyone unless they were extremely close to our tent. It was late, and my 2 friends had fallen asleep. I was having trouble sleeping around this time, so I lay awake for hours just thinking. Around 3 a.m., I heard the distinct sounds of grass and vegetation as someone walked on it outside of our tent. I was stunned with terror. For one, because this was a private field owned by a farmer who would probably be angry to find us there. But more so because I hadn't heard anyone approaching. Just suddenly there was someone outside the tent. I held my breath out of fear and shock, which is when I heard another set of footsteps belonging to a dog by the sound of it. Filled with dread, I just lay there as still as possible, breathing slowly and quietly, listening to this person and his dog walking back and forth outside the tent. I thought we were going to get shot or beaten up by this dude. Then I saw this guy's shadow, which freaked me out a hell of a lot more than I already was. It was huge and looming over us every time he passed our tent. And I couldn't see the dog's shadow even though I heard it making increasingly erratic circulations around the tent. This carried on for about 5 minutes, although it felt like much more time had passed. The shadows disappeared, and the sounds faded away. They didn't leave or anything. It was more like they were still walking outside the tent, but with perpetually lighter footing. When I was sure that the sounds had ceased, and there was no threat waiting for me outside, I freaked out at my friends, still as quiet as possible, and I said we had to go because someone knew we were here and we couldn't get in trouble with the owner. I told them everything that had happened, and they didn't believe me, thinking I had been asleep as well as dreamt the whole thing. I assured them that I hadn't, and that we had to go right now. They tried to get back to sleep, ignoring me, because they were lazy as hell and didn't want to pack everything up and go. I gave up too, even though I knew now that I'd never get to sleep. 10 minutes later, the sounds returned, just like the volume outside had been turned up gradually. I felt the same dread I had felt before, and whispered one of my friends' names so that they could wake up and hear. "Shh," one said. They had already heard, and told me to open the tent to see who was terrorizing us. I did so, slowly easing my hand out of the sleeping bag and up to the zipper. It probably took 5 minutes for me to reach it, just so I was sure not to make a sound, and I pulled it down so violently I nearly ripped the whole thing in half. There was nobody there. We got out within the space of 5 seconds, and there was nobody anywhere. As I mentioned, we were atop a hill in the middle of a field, and so could see if anyone had decided to run. But there was nothing, even though it was impossible for anyone to escape my seeing them. I am absolutely positive there were footsteps outside our tent that night.